ROM hacking for video games have had an everlasting growth ever since the first Chinese bootleg that was Super Mario 4 for the Game Boy. In hindsight, the game was really just Shin Shin, but something about seeing the Super Mario 64 box art Mario with the wing cap and everything at display there was still something that made the game feel like an abandoned lost media beta of a game that Nintendo wasn't going to release. But it being a bootleg and all, along with the many others like it, I guess with those you could have the technicality of calling them ROM hacks at this point. Even if they did lack in the quality department, they had a sole purpose of trying to sell something that they couldn't get from their official countries. I mean, it is China after all, you know, go figure how that works. Nonetheless, the ROM hacks I've played for the most part were in the Mario 64 category, and the one that made major headlines for all the gaming journalist article news sites before they became just modern garbage, just regurgitating the same things, even though that's typically what they usually do, but now it's just brain rot at this point. But it was that of a ROM hack that includes an extensive amount of levels, written with over 100,000 lines of custom assembly code, a truly groundbreaking hack that introduced tons of new mechanics from the legendary Kaze Emanuar. The only unfortunate side of this ROM hack is the last bit on romhacking.com's page, along with the rest of the game's uniqueness itself, and knowing that everything within it isn't gonna be used because the game was technically made in an outdated way compared to the ROM hacking processes nowadays, given the fact that the decomp and even reverse engineering is probably helped by a whole lot, and even Kaze himself doesn't recommend playing it anymore. So as to go against the grain, I did the complete opposite and completed this game full force. Super Mario 64 Last Impact was made in 2016, and the wait for it was well worth it at the time. A big Chungus-sized hack with a whopping 130 stars to collect, the intro to the game with a neat, dooming-like apocalyptic-looking logo. The select screen is no longer just a screen and is replaced with a hub that you can walk around, which is Peach's Castle's main hall, but without the actual rest of the whole shebangs. And even the opening to the start of the game, going from a soothing Mario tune into a menacing Majora's Mask theme as objects from the moon start to fall from the sky, which is revealed to be eggs that have evil-looking piranha plants at the forefront of the once relaxed Peach and Toad. Yes, the game truly starts out with a banger, and as anticlimactic as it ends for this sequence after you squish the piranha plant's head, there is definitely more to where that comes from. As to get it out of the way, since it's not too big and too heavy on it, the story for the most part is one of those, it must be Bowser, so let's beat him up, just to later reveal that the true baddie is a transparent face who steals Peach, as Peach was in the middle of the mentions of the planet's energy being drained, or something along some like Final Fantasy VII type biz. I don't know. But frankly, for its time, it was a huge change and a shift to what we thought was even possible for this game that was Super Mario 64. And to see something with this love and care, and also articles giving that headlines of Super Mario 64's sequel is here type of tag to it, but aside from the pushing of the story forward with these new in-game cutscenes, it at least set the goal of needing 80 stars for completion for those that may get stuck in a few stars, because there's definitely gonna be a lot of those, but that's more on my gripes for when I talk about it later. And now for the main course, the gameplay and all of what that consists of. Right out of the bat, the hub is completely redesigned to fit not only a new look, but to give a little bit of a sneak peek on what a level will probably have in mind. And this is something you'll notice about all other hubs as well, and each having a more dire feel, as the starting one is the typical usual peaceful lands of the Mushroom Kingdom. The second hub area is a town that has suffered from the falling meteors that fell, and the houses are severely damaged. The sky is dreary, and the mood just feels like an unfortunate accident by a malevolent force, as that is exactly what just happened. And from roaming around it, it did feel like it could have had some Thousand-Year Door Shadow Village inspiration behind it. And the last hub that you'll go to is pretty basic, but the send off into space before reaching the moon was a good touch. The overall connected direction that leads here or there are never nonsensical and feel like a world that, if not for the current events going on in the game, that maybe this would have been a more thriving, colorful land. But even knowing that it isn't, and it's because of these events, that adds more of that fine detail to it when compared to the regular Super Mario 64 biz. But back to the ground, and at the starting hub of it all, the beach side with a Toad with his sunken ship that blocks a level you'll be able to venture through later. And even Lakitu makes a cameo here. Although it does make you wonder, who's the one surveying Mario? Who's in control of the camera now? Besides that, the coconut tree that if you in Super Mario Sunshine fashion kick over to Yoshi's little bin, you're given a star for your generosity. And speaking of Yoshi, the first interable level having the same Yoshi's Island fuzzies that if you touch, you indeed get dizzy or just batshit high. And I also like the touch that amplifies it by making it so that you can't fall down the cliff further, adding on to that high on life that drugs will have you on, and being able to be lifted up by some sort of malevolent windy force. Now for the sunshine aspect, each act you do will have that camera panning just like the first intro with the alien piranha plants. First level is a good start. It's kind of more on the smaller side when compared to the rest of the levels that you will be venturing throughout this ROM hack down the line. But the main majority of these levels in this hack are massive, and while usually when hacks have done this in the past, it would be to their detriment to the overall quality to them, and being so big that it just ultimately becomes a chore to go through, lacking variety, and at worst cases collecting 100 coins in a level and never being told to not do that, as it causes the game to freeze, and then you're just losing all of your progress, and then you just never want to play that ROM hack ever again. But not here. Kaze made sure to fill levels with enough of things to make these magical Mario worldly areas have a sense of life, but also maintain a balance as to not do too much for it. And with even more additions of custom objects, you'll see a ton of them being both in the second and third dimensional plane, and not make the game kick the bucket as well. Especially when it comes to making the red coin collection have a more focused area they reside in, unlike hacks in the past making it a scavenger hunt to look out for every single one of them, and also becoming an headache inducing one at that. And for a time this was the bee's knees, and I more than feel like it still holds up today. As for the custom objects that not only look nice but would be interactable, like adding air or helium to a balloon with a smiley face just to be able to get a star on top of a lighthouse because of said balloon with a smiley face, and that same lighthouse star having a detail of casting a shadow from a distance on the mountainside, that really caught me off guard and felt like it was on some next gen dynamic shadowing type of effect, even though I know that it's probably just an illusionary trick. And although it's just for show, hell, even in a level like 3/4 into the game, it's done again, but with a womp that's slowly sinking. Even the coins and life shrooms that are spread across the land manage to be 3D models and all. And depending on what type of biomes you are roaming through, you'll see the occasional specks and spots of like things of like flowers throughout the greenery, mechanical doohickeys for the Electobob like levels, little sprouts of grass coming into life, stuff that could be like a tessellation like effect, I guess you could say, or witnessing jumping cheeps in the distance while you're just chilling at the beach, and the cell shaded effect of the Toad House. Man, I truly love the cell shaded look when it comes down to these old games. Something about it just feels graphically modern, but it's still old. I don't know, I wouldn't mind seeing a whole entire ROM hack with cell shading being the whole entire thing for every character or object or whatnot. But then again, I'm a sucker for Wind Waker, so you know, I'm pretty sure that had something to do with it. But back to all the other unique stuff. Before Mario Odyssey was even a thing to make a land that was Food Kingdom, Kaze was out here making Candyman's land with a rideable Yoshi to help out speeding through this diabetic level that I think is probably the biggest level in this hack, or at least biggest to the one that's down to earth. Space and even underground levels, they have their size comparisons into the matter. And speaking of space and into the galaxy features, silver stars make an appearance here and working just as they did in that game, following you after you collect one and then the next and the next to get that final star. Having an object follow you in that way at the time in a similar fashion to modern Mario games on a superior console, and knowing that it was even possible felt amazing to see. That wasn't the only thing that was grabbed from Galaxy, as power-ups were also added to this experience. Cloud power, which comes in handy and is really OP at times, and conveniently so, being high up in the sky and managing out the 2 stocks you are given during the secret challenges you may face in certain levels that fit in that atmospheric feel. Even having a fun time as you fail multiple times was a blast. It made it so that I really didn't actually want to rage quit because of it, which is kind of crazy to say. But not only that, but the sky levels themselves felt like something that could have been straight out of the pop-up book of Jack and the Beanstalk kind of vibe, but maybe that's just me. Does anybody even really read books anymore at this point? Like, come on now, I'm pretty sure we're all just waiting for Netflix adaptations at this point. Anyways, lighting up a spark in the dark depths of space and into this powerless, monstrous machine's mouth, continuing the blast as it is dying currently, is the return of the Fire Flower, and it too works the same way it did in the original game that saved the video game space after the ET crash. And not gonna lie, being able to kill this Koopa on his vacation wasn't needed, but I'm glad Kaze understands the minds of the average gamer. Flood also makes a return, which was a small little moment-to-moment of usage, but for what it's used for is something fitting to what you do in Sunshine, cleaning up an Aztec-like deity, staircase-like pyramid structure, and even being useful for platforming when trying to climb an ancient layer of the same snake, ripped straight out of Sonic Adventure. The thing about all of these unique abilities and power-ups and gadgets and doohickeys and such is that with the game, for the most part, playing as your typical Mario, you end up coming to realize that this is still Super Mario 64, and with that game having its power to revolve around caps to be used in maybe like 1 or 2 ways for a level that they make an appearance in. Meanwhile, this hack will make you forget that the caps were even a thing in the first place by the time you get through the first hub. And to do something like that is rightfully deserving of a lot of praise, especially when bringing back actual power-ups from the olden days of the NES and even Super Nintendo. I will say though, the smaller stuff also deserves their just dues as well. The one thing I remember being a hectic thing was getting used to the air being its own thing, and no longer is it bound by the HP bar. Unless you're like on the verge of dying in a Super Mario Sunshine reference level in some weird Islanders jar or something. Yeah, that was a first try, by the way. That was a first try. The little detail of the Star Select screen being the same but with an apocalyptic background as space debris falls from the top, and having that Super Mario Bros. 2 select the character music is present. If you wait long enough, you'll get prompted a condescending caption. Nice. The heads-up display is dynamic, which I never realized when I first played this game years ago when it first released, but knowing that now gives me a more appreciation for it and having a more bigger picture without having a HUD just blocking your good Pictionary like views and such. And even inside the self-shaded Toad House has like a stat viewer and keeps tabs on all that has occurred during your gameplay, whether it's the time you've played or if you died a bit too many times. And something I didn't notice until I saw this and kind of like put the pieces together was you, the player, being able to select the color of your Yoshi friend when asked what is your favorite color. And the best smaller detail that has been pretty present for the most part when it comes down to Kaze's hacks is the stars having that little humming added to them when you're really close to one, just as a subtle hint if you don't know where a star may be at, so then you can focus in that general area. I know that this is still a Nintendo 64 game, but even for that graphical fidelity that was put into this, and along with the new objects and definitely the larger variety of new enemies, or even the return of older ones, probably some from different games and how you go about defeating them, like the aforementioned space machine dudes and even the revamped piranha plants, but the rest of the plethora of enemies like the spiky smiley stone dudes from Yoshi's Island are here. You got Krabby from Pokemon that are invading the beach and even causing a drought. You got the dry dusty bones in the dusty gusty dry deserts. These little floating blobs that change colors, and one explodes when it is hit and the other color is fine to stomp on. There's these sour sporty flies ruining the sweet land's atmospheric tour ride, and even classic enemies get a few revamps from the smallest to the biggest alike. Goombas with wooden hats, you need the flower power to actually squish them, but you have to burn their hats first. The bully boss is now a bully devil with 3 tails and a fire shield, and the rest of the usual cast of underlings you'd expect from Super Mario 64. But when it comes to the boss fights in the game, both mini, big, in bold, the usual Bowser fight being within an underground castle he set up next to Peach's castle, and this level being so huge that it even has a checkpoint, which I feel like it maybe wasn't there when the game first released. But regardless, the platforming from the start to the finish is a classic banger that puts the retro games from the NES into the third dimension, rolling out that nice red carpet for a superstar like Mario with whomps as per usual, looking like their classical self, spinning flames to burn up Mario spaghetti, fireballs hopping in and out of the lava-filled river path straight out of Super Mario World, along with the wooden boat, which I feel like should have been skulls to further that Mario World callback. All of this within the confines of an environment surrounded by lava. Bowser's ego-boosting logos all spread about, and the statues of his head that drool out lava along with the pipes. Really nice decoration, not gonna lie. Really nice decor here. Just sheer overall great amount of detail for this big bad boss that can't ever get a break from Mario, or vice versa. But the fight, as is expected, is still the same 3-hit wonder, but at least this time around, Bowser makes an actual effort to attack. And he can be a real hassle at times if you're not too careful. And at least he's learned to never leave an axe to collapse the bridge. I don't know what was up with that. Other boss-like entities you may encounter is like the flying Koop Kerma, which, fun fact, that's the passphrase for those that got stuck like me, which I still don't really know where to actually find that password out. You got this shadowy Mario that's a callback to the Dark Link fight in Ocarina of Time's water dungeon. Yeah, this dude kicked my ass a lot, I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. But the one boss I found truly interesting is Mario vs. Kamek. You see, when you start out with the level, it's an old town that's a literal ghost town, but for some reason, Toads decided to live here, and you first deal with it exercising this cave of booze, and not only that, but you also get to jam to Sans' Megalovania Undertale track while you do it. And even outside of the front of the cave is a soul Toad that stated nothing could happen if you just look into the mirror, you know, the mirror room. It's fine to look into the mirror. Very suspicious indeed. But after a fight in the Mortal Kombat that was Mario vs. Boo, the town is busy preparing a witch bombing. The church they have is cursed and filled to the brim with ghosts, a very unfortunate place to really live in when your church is not even safe from the evil spirits. But after helping the town for a bit, fixing all of their problems, the burning is finally in place. And I guess for some reason, Mario wants to hear out the Toad at the center of it all. Mario just believes this dude, I guess, and hands him a wand. As it gets revealed, obviously, this Toad here is truly Kamek. But then when you enter into the next act, the intro is just Mario getting arrested by Bob Holmes. I mean, you did just free an evildoer. Like, what do you expect? But then from there, it's just a prison break sequence. Monty Mole stays back because free place to stay, free drink, free food. Be like Yoshi, commit tax fraud. You'll basically have a whole place to stay for the rest of your life, allegedly. This act just becomes a whole stealth segment, and luckily enough, the site these bob-ombs have is very generous for us, and it's a good thing they have no ears because Mario is just loud as fuck with his echoing yahoos and yippies about, and the whole entire area is just quiet except for him. But the very last act is the righteous act and saving the town of this flying broomed menace. Kamek flying around being a butthead, shooting the PlayStation button as he's done in Super Mario World. The whole village town is on fire, the music and atmosphere is tense, but at the end of the day, it's just a simple boop on the head, and then he's dead, and then the day is saved. Frankly, that's the last act, so, you know, Mario probably didn't stick around to, like, help repair anything, so that's like, yeah, pretty dick move there, Mario. Now, I and many others in this Super Mario 64 ROM hacking sphere have come to the understandings that the mastermind of this kind of hack generally has a large amount of sheer love and passion poured into it, considering what Kaze did then and is continuing to do now, and is nothing but high expectations of goodness. Just the simple fact of being in a Sonic Adventure 2 level and remembering seeing a video about him implementing the moving object momentum, inertia-like physics with this moving green light that was probably a thing to speed up the movement around this big level, which can be a little bland for some time, like the emptiness of space didn't need to be so literal. But not only that, but it fits the working landscape of this mass production-like area. And something that blew my mind were these space blocks that would move around as they form a path for you when you get close to them to traverse, while also being shot at by these spaceship-like things around the space station atmosphere. And if they did manage to succeed in striking you down, then when you did fall, the only damage that you maintained was the one from when you got shot, and the fall damage is just non-existent. Maybe non-existent through the entire game, maybe. It's something that I kind of really didn't notice, probably for quality of life purposes. I never had issues with it, but I do know that a lot of people currently are making ROM hacks to have no fall damage, which I'm gonna miss that when they finally decide to cut it out, as, you know, just seeing Mario break his back is just something, there's a type of joy and comedic effect you get when you see this man just in pain. But I don't know, maybe that's just me. I got issues. I will say though, the gripes I did have for this is really no more than minor nitpicks. And since I'm in the space level, I guess, you know, the background fits space too well. I know Mario's on his own, but man, where's the rest of the star in the sky? But then again, you'd have to go out of your way to actually notice this and actually look up. But more little stuff is like the Grieve Cave Kirby exploration. Great damn level, but the shark is a butthead. And the amount of times that it either got stuck or I've been killed right before winning is crazy. Like, what an asshole. I only like it when the mermaids are mean to me. Like, come on now. This one wasn't too bad, but anyone can understand the frustration. So Yoshi, who you can feed respawning candies, can also throw her eggs because she's Yoshi. Throwing kids is cool, but it wasn't until I failed multiple times to hit this chain shot that I ended up realizing I needed to hold the B button to not have her eggs burst beneath her. Maybe I missed the text box or somewhere, but it's just for literally 1 star, so it really ain't that bad, but I feel like it should have been a thing. I don't know. But what is pretty bad were these ground pound challenges. Oh, wait. No. The ground pound, no. They were great. They were really great. But when you attempted one on your first try, and most likely your first try, you failed, which is probably something that will happen for anyone. And when it comes down to it, you have to exit level, and then you have to roam these massive lands again just to try another attempt, and most likely fail again, and then rather rinse and repeat until you actually win. Kind of wish they would respawn without you having to exit the level and come back. This one, I honestly have no idea where the passphrase is located at, and it didn't really help that the secret level to this area is a cloud challenge that has this sign here, and me thinking my stream died distracted me to what the password was for. So seeing one code for an Easter egg somewhere else had me bamboozled when I go to actually put in the passphrase and I see no L, and I'm just stuck there wondering, what am I supposed to do? Again, YouTube this if need be, because I don't know where in the game they mentioned that Kerma is the password. But another act that definitely added on to my confusion was Shower the Flower, which is in the later level. I just don't know what you're meant to do after the fact of you showering the flower. I did get the star, but from a video online, I guess it goes from watering a seed to a game of Simon Says, which is cool. But maybe another star act hint would have worked better, considering the camera panning already helps guide the player, even if not told of what you need to do. Kinda, in a way, maybe, perhaps, but this ain't really much. But for some reason, Mario's dance moving sidekick in place has been removed, and instead he just does a front flip or something. I don't know. I'm black, so I'm offended. What the hell is this? Super Trash 64? Smiley face? Lastly, widescreen mode, or the lack thereof. The latest version is 1.2, but 1.1 gets that modern goodness, shaking my damn head. Like, why? Why couldn't 1.2 get widescreen mode? But then again, I don't know if it's like true widescreen mode, some sort of weird type of implementations. I don't know. Yeah, it's not a big deal. Parallel launcher is pretty fine, even if things on the side kind of get cut and pop in and out. And frankly, that's it. I still managed to obtain every star in this game, and while I did have my gripes and moments where I was close to raging, it comes to the matter of the positives more than outweighs the cons. The levels have enough size and care to where one level feels like it's two mixed in one, like a literal icy hot patch, and having the flower powers for both areas and needed to defeat another classic foe that has the same moving texture look the Chowder Show has. I really got to figure out what that's called because I genuinely love that. And speaking of figuring things out and remaining in this same level, aside from this frozen Shy Guy Captain Easter egg, the cave beneath this poor unfortunate frozen soul is a mini puzzle to an even bigger puzzle that requires the powers of ice and fire. And moments like these is what adds more to the fun, and even when there were puzzles that still to this day I literally have no idea what I was doing and still managed to accidentally do something right just to be rewarded the star for it, even if I didn't fully deserve it. But what is deserved is the praise that should be given to what is now a museum of what most likely can't be ported to the PC version nor console, especially console, as it was made before the decomp and reverse engineering was even fully complete. But the mini games within the House of Toad and being very Mario Party like, whacking Monty moles, trying to not get burned by choosing the wrong colored platform, and much more. Callbacks, references, and things that feel like gameplay inclusionary Easter eggs like the Goomba Bros from Mario Story 64, Challenge Mario, and even having a long lost brother help out on a few occasions. It was a neat touch to see when after you make some progress and then they try to make another attempt at your life. Pretty cool. The cave level I mentioned earlier with the shark is a dark one, but with the return of the frog suit from Super Mario Bros. 3 to be used as a means of showing these mermaid chicks why seamen are the best and why they shouldn't act as sirens for poor sailors out at sea, and basically playing Superman 64 but underwater just to eventually save them like a super plumber when the shark isn't a dick. But I'd be a criminal if I hadn't mentioned the music to this ROM hack. And while the ones that are renditions of existing games but in a Super Mario 64 font style is gonna either be clear as day or is gonna be one of those, oh, that's why it's familiar type of situation. But as for some new tracks, there are some ones that are originally made here specifically for this ROM hack. And when it comes down to the levels, being more specifically our Sky High Island, the Jack and the Beanstalk like level with a soothing and magical high in the sky matchup back to the ground, or to the relaxing waters that was Sunset Islet, and when not blowing up an innocent Koopa chilling as one does at the beach with what feels like a Mario Story reference to the chill Koopa in his island aesthetic house. Conducting precipitation and back up above the clouds as an actual beanstalk climb, and with the helping hand of the cloud ability and the Jack and the Beanstalk giant's castle on a cloud in the distance. Definitely don't try to BLJ to it, cause it's surely nothing can be found over there whatsoever. And descending back down like Kamek and into the town that he has been haunting, and the music adds into the mood and the tormented toads. And since we're here, another additional track is within the church where the ghosts hang out and about in the back room, and ironically just vibing and doing nothing aside from the ones in the entrance with red coins inside of them. And for the level that feels like it belongs straight out of Galaxy inside of a harried honey hive, and the level overall is a dandy one, and the upbeat music just adds into its flair, with the bee's home residence being open in some areas and closed off in others until getting the queen's approval in a questionnaire, even being given a bee power the same as Galaxy, and earning the trust of others and even the respect of others when challenged to a race, and once again saving another group of people from another entity that would actually be a bee's common enemy. I think I don't really know bees' lives outside of like the Bee movie, so Barry B. Williams, y'all. And also, Spider Mario has way better web swinging than Insomniac's Spider-Man 1, 1.5, and 2, hands down. Like, there is no competition. This is the best web swinging in the game. Never thought that Kaze would somehow be able to do it, but he did it. Another track is that of the giant desk that feels like an angry elementary school kid doing homework or something. The desk is basically the floor is lava. There's paper with a long line of addition signs being done just to have the final result on what the answer is, which feels so relatable, I must say. But what's even more relatable was having an actual working calculator that, if like me, you're a deviant and put in the best number, you get a little boo laughing in the distance. A sheer childhood diabolic classic. But even before entering the level, it's like a gamer's basement collection. I really like the fact that there's a Dinosaur Planet cartridge and even the probably unfound Final Fantasy VII Nintendo 64 cartridge game here. This man just shits out love and care, I tells ya. But last but certainly not least is Colossal Circuit, which when letting the music play long enough becomes a technological banger. And if it ever feels like you've heard it before, then that just lets me know you watch all of Kaze's YouTube videos all the way to the very end. Hit like and even subscribe, and if you hit dislike, you end up lighting Mario's ass on fire because you, the viewer watching, are a true superstar. Now, before I had ever played this ROM hack, the most I'd be able to play was Missing Star, Star Road, Rainbow Road, 74, and Star Revenge to a certain degree, as these were the somewhat tolerable hacks that ran at a solid, at lowest 10 FPS to at most 25-ish FPS on my hack soft modded Wii. But when I was able to finally play on something more powerful than that for a time, and being able to play this as I conveniently and coincidentally enough got my first gaming laptop around the time this ROM hack released. What a time to be had, especially after the years of sticking by the old uploads on the progress of this game. I've said similar things a lot of times, but I am glad I can continue to say so. Kaze Emanuar really puts his all into these hacks, and I really am glad we have someone like him to dissect the works for this old but gold video game of many years ago. And it's a true shame that even he feels like this shouldn't be played, as it really is just a fun museum field trip like experience to be had. Knowing that the decomp has made things so simple now that even simple hacks of old can be made into their own PC port with goodies that come along with it. But unfortunately, the 100,000 lines of codes and custom objects would probably be a nightmare that really only Kaze himself would be the only one that could actually make this having a PC port possible. And frankly, I wholeheartedly can't really blame him if he didn't want to do that. I may not know what gets done per se when they make ROM hacks, but this is like a showcase of growth of what this man has started out from to what he's managed to do with all of what has been discovered inside of the Super Mario 64 knowledge factory that was a reverse engineering or something. I'm not really good when it comes down to the info to these type of things. My brain would just explode, but that's what I love about this community. Super Mario 64 Last Impact was and still is a game that changed the landscape of what's possible when using a same old game about a yahooing fat Italian sausage that saves a white chick from a giant reptile and is for now just ancient history. Unless this is the future and my kids made a decomp of it, please reverse engineer this hack. I'll pay you in back rubs. All in all, play this game. Ignore what Kaze has said. Don't just play this in 2020X. Play it every year just to spite him. Other than that, I enjoyed this game and I know you'll enjoy it as well, even with a few hard challenges to be had. It was great then and it's still great now. I made this script really late, and as usual, I started to procrastinate. Play the dang game, y'all. Like, comment, share, and subscribe with my nizzle. I gotta get a job, so videos might be in a drought just a tad bit. I gotta pay the bills, otherwise I won't be able to make videos for y'all, so you know, it is what it is. But other than that, peace out.